Welcome to Goes to 11 Get Spun. Today I'm going to show you how we tie one of our size 12 Squirmy Worm flies. We're going to start with a Togens size 12 scud hook, and we're going to put a 1/8 inch brass bead, also from Togens, on there. So we'll put the bead with the large hole facing away from the point of the hook when we install it. Slide that on, put that in our vise. Then I'm going to use UTC 70 thread in red. I'm going to run that down the hook shank to just before the bend. Bring it back to the top. Leave it a little ways from my bead because I'm going to install my squirmy worm through that bead. So I take my bobbin threader and I slide that through my bead. I grab my squirmy worm and I lick it a little bit to lubricate it because I need it to slide past the inside of this bead. I grab just enough of it that we can get it to slide through there, and I push the bead away from the eye of the hook to give us a little bit extra room. And once the squirmy worm starts to come through the bead, then I grab the worm and pull on the worm instead of pulling on the bobbin threader because I don't want to cut my worm. And I'll moisten that a little bit more and slide a bit more through until I'm happy with the length of worm I got through there, and I'm pretty happy with that. We'll slide that up, and then I'll take a loose wrap of thread around the worm and the hook shank a couple of times, and I don't want to pull down on that because you can cut your worm because they're fairly soft. And then we'll uncord the thread to flatten it out a bit so that when we wrap down this we try not to cut into our rubber. So pull it out and gently wrap down the side of the hook with that until I get to the end of where my threads were stopping my hook shank, and I'll stop there and then work my way back up towards the bead. And I try to keep my worm pulled towards me so that when I wrap it, it stays to the top of the hook shank. It will, as you tighten down, it'll have a tendency to roll on you. But if you hold it steady, most of the time you can keep it aligned. When I cut the tail off, I don't pull any tension into it because I don't want to lose any of the length that I cut it to. So I try to match the front and the back to about the same length, and I'll cut it on an angle when I do that, and I'll show you why. When I've got the angle on there now, I've got a nice thin area to tie this into my body. I'm going to use this to wrap my body and cover everything back up, all those thread wraps. So we'll catch that gently again and just pull it slightly back until I've got that trapped. And if you notice, I'm rolling my my thread by hand instead of pulling on the bobbin because I don't want to cut into this rubber. And the same thing, I'll come down, I hold it off to the side a bit, get my wraps on there, and we don't torque that up as we go. We just try to keep loose wraps so we don't cut into the rubber because it's pretty fragile stuff. Okay, once that's done, got everything's still laying on top. We'll start to wrap that, and we just wrap that, kind of pull some tension into it to make our body, do touching turns all the way back up to the bead, covering up all of our thread and other squirmy worm parts. And then when I get up to the top, I'll pull some tension into that. Do 3 wraps over, nice loose wraps, and bring it around the bead and do 3 wraps there. And then I like to do just a little bit tighter one now behind there, and then we'll stretch that out, cut that out, and do some wraps here to secure everything in there behind that bead. And then we'll do a whip finish or 2. And as you can see, as I torqued into that, my squirmy worm on the front twisted around to the side away from me a little bit. We can twist that all back into shape there. It'll all line up again. And I like to do 2 whip finishes on this. And then with rubber products, you can't usually use a UV resin because it'll eat your material. So I use Loon Soft Head on this stuff. It's a water base, just to lock our threads and everything in there. And it's kind of a milky color when you start out, but it'll, as it dries, it'll clear up. So anyway, that's our squirmy worm that we tie. This one's in red. I hope you like this video. If you like the video, click like and subscribe, and hit the reminder bell so you don't miss any further content that goes to 11. And if you want to purchase any of our products or any of the other products that Goes to 11 promotes, you can go to fishingandoutdoors.ca for Canadian customers and fishingandoutdoors.net for American customers. Thanks, and tight lines, everyone.